The Teochew film Dear You is not only a box office hit, it has become a lightning rod among Chinese Singaporeans. Filmmakers, Teochews in Singapore, young people who feel disconnected from their dialects, politicians, everyone has weighed in on the authorities' decision to limit screenings of the Teochew movie and instead have a wider release for the Mandarin-dubbed version. The conversation is now bigger than the film itself. So many Chinese Singaporeans are asking, what has the decades-old Speak Mandarin campaign cost us? And if it's time to relook how we treat dialects, particularly in the media. Hi guys, I'm Natasha and welcome to The Usual Place, the podcast where we have real conversations about the headlines. And with me today are two people who are very much involved with Mandarins and dialects. And first on the couch, I have Chu Li Ching. Now, you're an author of the Ethan Evan book series of bilingual children's books, and you're also the former deputy chairman of the Promote Mandarin Council. And just for some context, this council was actually set up in 1979 to lead the Speak Mandarin campaign, and it's supported by the National Heritage Board. And another fun fact, you can also speak Teochew and Hokkien. So very much multilingual.
Not perfectly.
Not perfectly, but you can understand and speak some of it. All right. And next to you on the couch is a dialect teacher. I have Eugene Lee, the co-founder of LearnDialect.sg. Now, you grew up speaking Teochew with your family, and now you teach Teochew and Hokkien in classes. And your school also offers Cantonese lessons. And you started group dialect classes after you volunteered at a nursing home, and you realized that many of the seniors there they spoke dialect, but they couldn't articulate their needs to their caregivers and the staff at the nursing home, right?
That's right.
All right. Okay, so we're here because of the movie and I want to get into it. It's not the first time that a dubbed version of a dialect film has been screened, but the conversation, I feel, has been unusually heated. And actually, the Straits Times received many forum letters on this issue, and it's like the most number of letters on a single topic in recent months. So I want to ask both of you why you think Chinese Singaporeans have such a strong reaction to the limited screening of the Teochew version when many of them may not perhaps speak the language themselves. So, Li Ching, do you want to tell us what you think about this?
Okay, the way I look at it is that there are two things. One of it is that anything that is limited that you want and you cannot get, it does upset people. I think that's one thing. And the other thing is that because this being a dialect, I think the first version is in dialect. Many Teochews who wants to view it, they couldn't view it, and therefore they feel that, why can't I view it? So I think there is always this element of rarity. When something is rare and you cannot get it, you do tend to get a little bit upset. So that's one. And of course, the original movie, being based on that language, if you are purist in that language, you will enjoy it. And not being able to enjoy that, does make you feel, that way. But being dubbed in Mandarin, I watched the Mandarin version. And I find that, I can follow the story very well. I can understand the emotions that it brings out in people. Perhaps when it is in the Teochew dialect, it may resonate a little bit more with the Teochew speaking, but looking at the Mandarin version, I think it is perfectly understandable. And the other thing, of course, is that I feel that by making the Mandarin version available, I think it makes it possible for more people, even non-Teochew speaking, to really enjoy it, because the storyline covers something that all older Singaporeans will have an understanding for, how their forefathers came here, how they set up homes here, and the kind of struggles that they go through, especially that part about sending money back home. So that's how I see it.
Eugene, do you agree? Like, do you think this is why, Chinese Singaporeans are so upset about this, not being able to see the film in Teochew, not having many options to see the film in Teochew?
I think, thank you for the question. I think there's three main things, if I may. Number one is rarity, like what Li Ching said. And then to me, there's also authenticity plus emotionality. So if we start from the authenticity point of view, like what was mentioned, it's a film made in Teochew, right? So if we dub it, does it still retain the original flavor? Next factor, I think the emotional part is what could have potentially sparked this even more, where people feel that dialects are linked to their own family. It's not so much about the entire society at large per se, but it's the stories of their grandfather, their great-grandfathers. They just want to have something linking to it. And when everybody goes for it, then it becomes the problem of, oh no, there's no more tickets. And then it becomes like, why are there no more tickets? So it's a bit something like, for lack of a better analogy, it's like something, okay, maybe you like your grandmother's cooking, a recipe that she makes. And you nobody thinks about what ingredients go into it until one day you find that this dish is not going to be around anymore. So I draw a bit of a linkage, the similar linkage between these two things that's happening. Yeah.
So all three of us watched the film. I watched the film in Mandarin. You watched it in Mandarin, Li Jing. And Eugene, you watched it in Teochew.
Yes.
What were your takeaways from the film? Because I think, Li Jing, you kind of mentioned that this story resonates, right? So when you're watching it, I have to say, in the cinema that I was in, a lot of people were crying. I was like surprised. I mean, I read stories, I've read the articles about how it's very touching, but what were your personal takeaways from it? Maybe Eugene, when you're watching it, did it connect for you particularly because you are Teochew?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear these stories growing up?
So for me personally, my granddad passed away way before I was born, right? So not so much of the stories. I could relate it from the perspective of a viewer, right? So that's one thing. My own take on it is touching. It's a touching movie. I do hear people all around me sobbing, sniffing away, and there was an elderly gentleman. He was like, every 15 or 20 minutes. So you could feel the emotions that's going on within the viewing. So my own take on it gives a good understanding of what went on during that time. Now, is it really realistic? I'm not too sure, but I think the whole point of it was trying to come across to deliver certain principles, right? Number one, on being frugal, right? That's why they go overseas and work and they send money back home. Number two, potentially, the filmmaker was trying to also show maintaining a strong relationship, right? So the
like with family ties.
Yes, that's right. So that is, and then three, there is that cultural element. Is it okay if I use certain Teochew words on the...
Of course, please
just
do.
want to know our boundaries here. So they are trying to show the Teochew nang kaki nang kind of mentality, where it's a phrase that Teochews typically use to say that we are brothers no matter whether we are born from different family, but as long as we are Teochews, right? I will not give you the second phrase on the, but anyway, so Teochew nang kaki nang is just a simple, very quick expression among the Teochew community to say that brotherhood exists among the Teochew community. Yeah, and that's what I think they were trying to show.
Li Jing, did you cry?
No, I didn't cry.
Were you not touched by the film?
Yes, the film was touching, but I felt that all these emotions that is displayed on the movie is not just peculiar to the Teochew dialect. All the other dialect groups would have similar experiences. Like my grandfather, who came to Singapore long ago, I think he went through the same thing. And so it is something that all of us can relate to. And I feel that in this particular instance, I even heard stories about my friend's aunt who went to JB to watch the movie and finds that they came back and said that she didn't understand 50% of it. But it didn't stop her from enjoying it. So which brings me back to the point that, whether it is dubbed in Mandarin or not, I think the story still comes true. I still find it emotive. I still find it interesting. But of course, if it is in the dialect, maybe there is that little bit extra for the Teochew speaking.
Did you find that some nuances were lost in the dubbing? Because some things may be better expressed in Teochew, perhaps.
Oh, the cursing, of course, which is, you don't hear it at all. But I'm quite sure it was very colorful in the dialect. But that said, I think it is not difficult for anyone who's watching the movie to fully embrace, this is the kind of hardships that the earlier generation goes through. So if you're saying that, okay, as a movie, is it still possible to enjoy it? I would say yes. But did we lose anything because it's not a dialect? I would say that maybe to the Teochew speaking, they will probably feel that, they would prefer it in its authentic form. But for all of us, it's okay.
Yeah. So I do kind of see where you're coming from, because I mean, I'm neither Teochew nor can I understand Mandarin that well. So when I was watching, couldn't tell why. So I did kind of connect with the story because my grandparents' story is a little bit different, but they left their motherland to come to Singapore back in the day, and they also gave up a lot of things. So I could resonate with it from them. So I will admit I did tear up slightly. So thinking about my grandparents, so I can kind of see like how you can connect. But I wanted to ask Eugene, like, would you watch it in Mandarin? Would you go back and watch it in Mandarin for a second time?
I would. I mean, this is because approaching solely from a linguistic perspective. I'm interested to see how they dub it, how they change certain expressions from Teochew into Mandarin. So this is where I guess back to the point earlier on, why is there such excitement over whether it's Teochew or Mandarin? I guess it's because certain expressions would be solely limited to Teochew. I heard in the Mandarin version certain poems they would have to retain in that, so that is untranslatable, so to speak. Now, on the point that we mentioned earlier on the swear words, yes, okay. So to be honest, there are many variants of Teochew being spoken in the show. The only consistent words that can be understood no matter what variants are the swear words. So yeah, since I watched the Teochew version, I can share that with you. So yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it's really, I would catch it only because I'm interested from a learning perspective. Now, as to why commercially it's in Mandarin, I think I agree totally. It's to enjoy the show, there are certain elements, like we mentioned, being frugal, having a strong relationship with family, etc., etc. I don't see, I mean, I'm not the government of the day, yeah? So they would, I think they are considering all these perspectives and say that, can we propagate or can we promote these values to a wider audience rather than just a Teochew viewing audience? And I don't have issues with it, right? Because it's good. All these things are good, right? But if you ask me, what would I prefer at this point in time? I still like the original version.
That's because you are Teochew.
That's right. No, I agree with you because I can understand the nuances better. And that's solely from a learning or a linguistic perspective. But there are so many other perspectives to consider. Yeah.
So I do want to ask Li Ching, because when you look at the ongoing conversation and the responses from the authority, so IMDA has come out, MDDI has come out to issue statements, like, and even the Promote Mandarin Council has released a statement. So when you look at all the things that have been said and ongoing conversations and commentaries and everything, what do you make of it?
Well, I am no longer in the council, but looking at what they have done before, I really feel that the council's objective at that time, and even now I believe, is just to encourage people to speak Mandarin. I mean, the slogan says, speak Mandarin, yes, I can. And in Chinese, it's 讲华语我也可以. So it simply means it's an invitation. It is not an instruction. So it is more or less that, if you can, speak whenever you can, and there's an environment for it, But I think this is not in conflict with Teochew as a dialect. I think the two can coexist because I think each enriches the other. So whatever it is said that, out there, I really feel that, there is some kind of, how should I put it? I think there's a need to relook at the whole thing and really say that what really is the Promote Mandarin Council and the Speak Mandarin Campaign trying to do? I think it's just simply encouraging people to speak the language so that you can speak with others who speak Mandarin, who may not speak the dialect. And also, whether it's locally or globally, you can connect with people at that level. So I think there is a bigger objective of what the Speak Mandarin campaign is trying to achieve.
I think if I look at the conversation, what I can glean from it is that I think people don't want to have to choose. They don't want to have to choose between, like, can I get a ticket for the Teochew screening, and then there's the Mandarin option. But also I think the conversation is a bit heated because it comes across as an unfair application of policy. Like, because a French film can be screened in French. A Korean film will be in Korean, but a Teochew film needs to be dubbed in Mandarin, because of the restrictions on the use of dialect. So I think that kind of annoys people, and also because there's selective use of who can use dialects, right? So the government does use dialects when it wants to use it to tell seniors about policy and stuff. But then suddenly an artistic piece of work comes out and it's like, no, you can't use dialects. So I want to ask both of you, should we now really have a review of the policy about dialects in films, and it shouldn't be something that we treat by a case-by-case basis? Eugene?
Okay, so there's a few questions involved here. So first of all, I think if you're talking about French, you're talking about Korean, I agree with you. It stirs a lot more emotions when you feel that your grandparents' language have to be reviewed vis-a-vis a foreign language. So it tugs at the emotions. A lot of people would feel for it. Imagine if now, let's say I'm not talking about Teochew film, I'm talking about Hokkien film, I'm talking about Cantonese film, right? So people would think, what is the chain effect that's going on, right? So because it links to their own family heritage, I think that's where a lot more emotions are at work here, right? So that's one. And also, I think if we can go through like Korean 16 episodes of Korean series and cry through 16 episodes and even maybe order Korean fried chicken in Korean, I think we can do with a 2-hour Teochew movie. Right, so I think that's what people are thinking. Don't think that just because it's a 2-hour movie, there's a lot more restrictions that have to come in. Now, are we going to review the policy again? I think we do understand the Speak Mandarin. Trying to Speak Mandarin campaign of 1979, because the linguistic landscape back then was very different, right? And we need to connect with a global economy. So I have no issues, right? Right now, I think the landscape has changed. It's good to consider because dialects to me speak of family, not so much of, I would say, economical gains, right? So while speaking Mandarin can connect you with the whole China generally, speaking dialects is your way of connecting with your own family roots. So that's how I view it. And again, as an analogy, I love analogies. I think Mandarin is like the core bridge. Dialects is like the road to your grandparents' home. So that's how I look at it. Yeah.
Well, I think the Promote Mandarin Council does not dictate really, whether what movies, should be translated or dubbed or not. That is not the purview of the council. I think the council's job is simply to just promote Mandarin speaking as a common bridge for all who speak Mandarin and to reach out to them. So I think there is a need to recognize that we are talking about two different things. So for the dialect, I think, maybe for individual homes, there is a preference there. But right now, if you really look at it, how many families really speak dialects at home? Not many. And whether it is Hokkien or Teochew or any other language. So if Mandarin is the way that, people can communicate, at least there is this bridge that is there to facilitate that communication. I think I personally believe that dialects and Mandarin are both, can work together to foster a stronger appreciation of our culture. And I think that's the way it should be. And also, I think things change, times change. I mean, in the past, certain things are done because it was a necessity at that time. But with time, I think, we look at things differently. So if I may use an analogy here to borrow Eugene's
all tapping on the analogy. Yes, go for it.
You remember the stick and stay at 2.
Yes.
The Stop
campaign,
at 2
Stop
campaign.
at 2
right?
campaign. I think that was part of the family planning campaign at that time. So at that time, people have big families. So I think when the campaign came out, there was a big hoo-ha, right? Some unhappiness. But look at it today. Things have changed. We are now having a situation where we are encouraging families
Please
to
don't
have
stop at
more
2.
children. Please don't stop at 2. Too little, too few. So you see, things do change. And as things change, there is a need to perhaps look at things differently, but let's not throw out the baby with the water. What is good, I think is still worth retaining. I think we should retain. So I would always I always see that there's a need to take a very balanced view of really what are the changes we want to introduce, what really is good, and what is it that we should keep.
Does the council feel very aggrieved? Is the Chinese word 冤枉? It's like, because every time this happens, and then it's like, oh, has the Speak Mandarin campaign been like too successful that, because dialects, as you said, are not commonplace anymore. So in a way, like Hakka and Hokkien are like very foreign to younger people, and it's just a foreign language like Korean, Japanese, or even French, So do you think the campaign itself has been too successful?
You mean the Speak Mandarin campaign?
Yeah.
It depends upon who is saying it. I think this is something that it'll be good to really do a poll to see really, what people think about the campaign. But generally, I think the campaign remains very, very focused on just encouraging people to speak. In fact, there are people who say that, Singaporeans don't speak Mandarin very well. And that's the reason why the Speak Mandarin campaign continues, because it still see that there is a role for it to play to encourage more people to speak Mandarin and to speak to the best of your ability, rather than, I don't know how to speak, so I don't speak. So when you don't speak, you lose the language completely over time. But when you speak, even if it's a little bit, that's good enough, because communication is when the other party understands what you say.
Yes.
And the minute you start speaking, it is also an encouragement for others to say, yes, I can also do that. Why not? So that's the whole idea. And I think the Speak Mandarin campaign will continue in that manner to provide opportunities for families to come together to look for opportunities to speak. And the home environment is the best environment. And that's why they do things like the parent-child competition, to encourage, kids and the parents to come together to participate in storytelling. And they also do the Singaporean Mandarin database, where you find that a lot of the words that are inside there has etymological roots in the dialects. So you have, for example, words like Jipo or Kepo, right? But these are all, the base are all from the dialects.
Yes.
There are words like, Hao Ming, all these are from the dialects. And words like Pato, which everybody understands.
Yeah, I think Eugene was telling me that half of the names, if we remove dialects completely, half of the road names have to go, right?
Yeah. So there is this encouragement. And for me as an individual, why I write bilingual children's books is also to encourage families to also use stories as a means to interest children in languages, in Mandarin. You don't start them early, they will never do it. And I thought that why not, if I can do these storybooks, promote a little bit of a love for languages, and of course, a love for Singapore.
So I want to ask Eugene, because you teach students dialect, right? Has the drive to focus on Mandarin, so it's not just about the language that I want to know about, it's like, has the focus on Mandarin caused the Singapore Chinese community to actually be disconnected from their dialect group's heritage, culture, and roots? Do you see this among your students or among younger people, perhaps?
That's a good question. So the way I look at it is there are lesser and lesser younger folks understanding dialects. That's a fact, right? And sometimes beyond that surname, sorry, I correct myself. Sometimes people do not know they have the same Chinese surname because in English it's spelled differently, like a Chan and a Tan. But it gives me, if I were to appreciate dialects, it gives me a flavor. I know that you probably are Cantonese, you probably are Teochew or Hokkien. So I can differentiate because I looked into it. Now, the most telltale sign is a lot of my students would just say, most of the time in over Chinese New Year, that's where I use that one phrase. Yeah, like, I know, Huala, for example, for lack of a better. Or I just sit there and listen to my grandma nodding. Although I don't understand, hopefully I didn't promise to get married the next month. Things like that. It does happen. And again, maybe I jump back a little bit to what we covered. I really do agree that both dialects and Mandarin should coexist. Because from a personal viewpoint, my Mandarin improved because of my exposure to dialects. As I was researching more and more, I find that there are a lot of interesting Chinese characters that are lost to Mandarin, but they are retained in dialects. So earlier I was sharing in Hokkien or in Teochew we say 假抓, which means to eat snake. You know what eat snake means, right? But the Chinese character is actually not on the snake. It's a period of time. So for me, I have a better appreciation. And I hope most people do not treat this conversation as binary. It shouldn't be. It is complementary. The way I look at it is complementary more than binary. And again, back to stressing, it's more like, because there's a lot of emotions involved, we need to take a step back and see, okay, are we comparing apples to apples? And even learning Mandarin, I spent a good 10 years overseas, and I was covering the China markets. I am bilingual, but I'm not bicultural.
What does that mean?
So I am bilingual in that I can communicate with my Chinese clients, but their response to certain things, I am not at the same level from a cultural sense. Okay. Similarly, I feel that dialects give that additional flavor, right, is to connect to your cultural roots rather than your language roots. Even though I'm a language teacher, right? But I find that there's a lot more flavors embedded within, right? So even if we talk about in the movie, and generally when we talk about people moving overseas to work, in that time, we call it 过荒. 过荒 means to go overseas and work. But in those days, when we say 过荒, it means a lot of hardships. It means a lot of, I don't know, probably you might not survive the journey, right? But if we translate it into Mandarin now, we are saying, 可能出国公干, right? Or 出国谋生. It becomes like, it's just going overseas to work. So 过荒 and 出国谋生 are two different things, even though if you try to translate it into Mandarin, it is what it is now, right? And 过荒 on itself certainly don't come with KrisFlyer miles nowadays, right? So the way I look at it is really, it is better to appreciate from a complementary viewpoint. That's how I really feel that is to be the case. But if you're saying that, have we lost more of our cultural roots? Unfortunately, I think there is the element there, right? So how are we trying to retain it? I don't know. To me, the language is one aspect. Then that's where there's also other cultural programs, right? I mean, it will be very sad for me one day to know that the only Hokkien I know will be Hokkien me.
I thought you were going to say the Hokkien swear words.
No. Let's keep the food. Food is a good introduction.
Okay, but Yijing, do you agree with what Eugene is saying?
Partially, simply because I feel that the analogy that he uses covers different historical periods. The 归荒 is for the earlier stages when our parents, our grandparents, or our ancestors came as immigrants. 现在你说我们出国公干, that is a modern context.
What is the...
公干 means I'm going on an overseas stint. It's a different context.
Or motion?
Yeah, so it's still a different context. So I feel that we are not comparing likes with likes. I think we are, the dialect richness is you are able to differentiate this. But it is not to say that, you cannot convey it even in the Mandarin language. So I think we need to look at Mandarin as we said earlier, the bridge, the overarching bridge. But dialects play a role in the sense that in terms of the cultural richness, it can help to, bring it together. And that is why I think the two are not in conflict. But we have to recognize what is the purpose of the Mandarin language. I think its purpose is more than just within the family, within the the country. I think it goes beyond that. I think that the purpose has got to be a wider form of communication, because you are communicating not only with people within your dialect group, but people who are not in your dialect group. You're communicating even with people, the Malays who are now learning Mandarin. You're communicating with the Indians who are learning Mandarin. And you're communicating with a lot of overseas people who are learning Mandarin. And of course, those from China itself and the Mandarin-speaking countries. So I think the perspective of language and dialects, they are not, how should I put it? They are not confrontational. I think they are in a way mutually enhancing one another. But one has got to take the lead in covering the broader space. The other, I think, yes, is for family enrichment. If your family can choose to speak that, I mean, by all means. But I think the reason why a lot of families don't speak the dialects now is also because the demands that are made on people today. At work, you tend to use English most of the time because that is the language of communication, right? So at home, with each passing generation, you find that fewer and fewer people know how to speak it. And what really remains is that Mandarin is still at least something that they can still communicate between the generations.
So do you feel like where we are right now, like dialects in the marketplace are like less valuable than Mandarin?
I think how I look at value is what it means to you. So from the family point of view, yes, I can understand why the value is still there. From the marketplace point of view, I see Mandarin as being that bridge. But underscoring all the cultural values that even Mandarin as a language has is actually the backing of the dialects.
I'm curious to get Eugene's point of view on this. Like, do you feel like dialects are perhaps less valuable than Mandarin today?
Again, we have to define what is value. Yeah. So if we just measure value based on economic input-output, Mandarin definitely, I will go for Mandarin. I'll learn it every day, anytime.
And this was the point of the Speak Mandarin campaign when they started it back in the day, right? Yeah.
So now, if I'm able to speak dialects, for lack of a better scenario, if I can understand what my mother-in-law is saying about me, I think that is very intellectual skill set as well, right? It's both are languages to me, and they contribute in different ways to make to let you see a wider picture of what is the entire situation about. I wouldn't restrict myself to just using dialects for economical gains. Yes, there are pockets where you can gain an advantage because of your dialect fluency. For example, in Hong Kong, I mean, they have been sticking to Cantonese, right? And if, let's say, you're in the semicon industry and you go to Taiwan, definitely our Hokkien would help, but please, our Hokkien is a bit different. So it sounds harsher to the Taiwanese Hokkien, right? So one would have to be aware. You see, even within Hokkien itself, which by right we should call it Minnan language, there are there are nuances within that one would have to realize in order to utilize it properly.
That is precisely the point, you see, because Teochew as spoken here versus Teochew as spoken in the mainland, quite different.
Yes.
And this came out in the film, right?
Yes, it came out in the film.
And just as Hokkien here, and Hokkien even in Penang, for that matter, and in Taiwan, there are certain differences.
Oh, Penang Hokkien is a different animal.
Yeah, so it's very, it's very different, very nice to hear, to listen to.
Can we understand it? Like,
you can understand.
There's no we here, as in people who speak Hokkien can understand
You can understand, but maybe not every word. Okay. Just as the people who are watching the movie, the Teochew movie, some of them cannot understand, but they know that, this is Teochew. So because of that, they just sort of, just accept it as part of the conversation. But that's precisely the point, because, dialects, there are so many variations depending upon your point of origin. And this is the thing that Mandarin is trying to do, to unify that so that there is really hopefully no gaps, that when you speak, the other party can clearly understand. what you mean.
I think there's no discrepancy between the two of us.
Yeah.
We see it very clearly as Mandarin is that main bridge. But how do you have that additional flavor, that character? I hope majority of people don't see it as a conflict just because I'm learning Mandarin.
It's just like ice cream, ice cream in general. So you want the durian flavor?
You can also have the other flavor.
Or you want the red bean flavor? What is it?
And then it's entirely up to your own taste preference.
But it's ice cream, basically.
We can always have ice cream.
We can always enjoy it, right?
Yes,
ice cream is never enough.
Yes, that's so true. Eugene, I want to ask you, you've been running dialect classes for about 8 years now. What has the appetite been for Chinese dialects? Because we have established that not many people speak it, but then there are options now for people to want to learn. You can learn it on TikTok, you can go to a class. Who's coming to you to say, I want to learn Teochew, Hokkien, and Cantonese? And why?
I think majority of it, we have to split it up into 3 different groups for the 3 different dialect groups. Hokkien, generally, I would say for the healthcare professionals. In fact, that's why we started Learn Dialect. Because when I was volunteering back then, literally, let's say a granny was sitting here and the nurse assistant was standing right here. She was wheeled under the AC. It was very cold. But because she didn't speak any English and the nurse assistant is from Philippines, she didn't even want to reach out and just do this. Right? So it's very sad when I saw that. It's like, it tugs at my heartstrings.
But you could see she was cold.
Yeah. So I just went up to her, Amali Kwabo. So it's a very, are you cold? That means, are you cold? So wheel her away. So that becomes the bedrock of what we strive to achieve, right? Communication. Now, for Hokkien side will be healthcare professionals. For Teochew, more towards, I would say, family. Because Teochew, again, within the Teochew community, you can use it. But outside, the broader picture, who speaks Teochew? Maybe if you go to a Teochew kueh shop, maybe, right? And then for Cantonese, it's for people who want to go overseas, to Hong Kong especially. And then there's a common group among all these 3, which is learning because my in-laws speak them.
Okay, that's very specific. That's a very specific reason.
Yeah, it is. And you find that it's a more common reason than you would have thought of it, right? And it just speaks to it, right? Because at the end of the day, people want to communicate. And even the Teochew, Hokkien or Cantonese that we speak locally has a lot of Bahasa Melayu influences as well as English influences. Now, that may be applicable to Southeast Asia, right? But to me, as long as there's people using it for family reasons, I think it's valuable. That's value to me.
So I want to end off our conversation on this because I started by saying there's been a lot of conversation around this movie and it has traveled to policy, right? As in people start talking about policy. So I want to ask both of you, what do you want to see happen next? Like perhaps policy change or not just like flexible approaches, or do you think there should be a better appreciation for dialects from here? Eugene, I'll ask you first.
I think from policy perspective, I cannot speak on it because I don't have that many perspectives as per the government. But from a learner or from a teaching perspective, I do wish that there's more space for it, definitely. Only because to me, as I mentioned, dialects are more cultural, more familial. Right, and it has no, I would say it's not at loggerheads with Mandarin, not at all. That's very, very clear to me. But sometimes if the conversation gets too extreme, then we have to be very careful. Which is why I guess the government of the day is always very careful about, should I open this? What if it becomes a floodgate? Then how do we control? I think that's always, we have to think one step ahead. Yeah.
Li-Ching, agree or disagree?
Yes, but I think generally whatever we do, we got to look at the circumstances. We got to look at if whatever change we introduce. I mean, I can't speak for the government, but as a layman, I think any policy that is introduced, if it is to be sustainable, it has got to move with the times. Whatever works. So for example, many years ago, when we first started issuing NDP tickets, You remember a lot of people couldn't get the tickets because they were limited in quantity. And there was many angry people.
Just like the Dear You movie.
Yeah. But what's happened now is that you find that over the years, the organizers of the NDP have realized that there is a way to do it so that, more people enjoy the NDP because they put in more rehearsals. So when they put in more rehearsals, the capacity increase. So I think that way it sort of, make it possible for people to see the NDP rally and what it is like, even if they cannot attend it on the actual day. So similarly, with any policies going forward, I think it's not a matter of I do it now just to fix this problem. I think it's any policy that is made, I believe, has got a long tail. There's a lot of things that can come after it, and I think we got to look at it. What really benefits? What really is meaningful, and what really is should be done? And I think that for the time being, right now, I mean that is looking at the Speak Mandarin Council and what they are trying to do. I think they are just trying to, meanwhile, to do their part of the work, just to make Mandarin speaking as natural as possible, create the opportunities for people to interact, and encourage more people to do it. Natasha, you may want to try it. You may like it.
I mean, let me add on. I guess for me, just one line to summarize what I think. I think Mandarin opens doors professionally, but dialects open doors within the family. At least that's for me.
A tagline you can put on your shirt.
Yeah, it's a good thing, right?
But from hearing the conversations, I think what Singaporeans really want is not a blind application of policy. Like I think it's not about being flexible. I think it's really about thinking about how we can include more people in the conversation. And so I think what we've established today is that, dialect and Mandarin are not mutually exclusive. And in fact, learning one can actually enhance the appreciation of the other. And then they can even work together to kind of connect families, and people can get in touch with their culture, right?
In fact, I would say Mandarin is probably the inclusive overarching bridge. It includes, all the other cultural nuances or dialect richness that can come into it.
Yes. Eugene, you're thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking whether that's true. Because, to me, Mandarin is a Northern Chinese language, right? So if we were to say Northern Chinese is inclusive of the entire China, it's as good as saying Tamil is inclusive of the entire India.
No, I don't agree with that.
Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I don't. That's not what I want to say.
Right.
That's why I said language evolves over time.
Mm-hmm.
It may start as a northern language, but over time, the Mandarin of today is very, very different from the Mandarin that was spoken many, many years ago in ancient China. And that's the reason why language is a living thing. It evolves, it changes with time. And as it changes, to be relevant, it has to be inclusive. And that's where how I look at languages.
All right.
Okay, then from that, I agree. Because inclusivity, I think, I really think that language is always evolving. Even our local dialects, right?
Yes.
But I think the operationalization of it is very key to make people feel that by trying to promote Mandarin, I'm not trying to quash dialects. I'm just saying that it is there for you to explore.
So I think that's a very good place for us to end. And 谢谢你.
谢谢你.
Yes, I'll work on my Mandarin. It's like,
yes. Please speak.
It's getting there.
It's getting there.
You can do it.
Yes. All right. So thank you both for being here. And that's it from The Usual Place today. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, do subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss new episodes of the podcast. If you have thoughts on what we just discussed, do drop a comment on YouTube or talk to me on Instagram at The Usual Place Podcast. I will see you next Thursday.